city manager, but I don't know.
Did he quit? Did he quit?
Probably.
Oh.
Tried walking out.
He handed me a paper before he left. Maybe I should read it.
There he is.
Surprise!
You don't have to do it.
This is your
Well, I don't know. All right.
I don't wait for me.
Juan, are we ready? Cool. All right. Welcome, everybody. It is 7:05. I'll call this meeting to order. Thank you for joining us. We're going to stand and repeat the Pledge of Allegiance after me.
Sure. Councilmember Gettle.
Here.
Brown.
Here.
Sperry.
Here.
And Glover.
Here.
Councilmember Robinson is excused.
Thank you. All right. First up, we have the Unified Fire Department report. We'll hear from Chief Larson.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. I have to say, Matt, I think that's great. I've never gotten applause when I walked into a room.
It's my one time.
I've got a few things to go over. I know you've got a long agenda, so I'll try to do these in short order and do them justice. Our recruits just finished their recruit camp, 4 months of training. They graduated May 24th. We held a ceremony at the JATC in Riverton. These recruits now begin their service and are assigned to crews throughout UFA. So we're happy to have them on board. We also had some lateral hires. That means firefighters that came from other departments, which is great for us because they come with a lot of experience. We've got 2 paramedics and 6 firefighters, and they're going to go through a 4-week orientation process started June 1st. Our strategic planning process has started. This is our 3rd strategic planning process. This is going to develop the 2024 through 26 strategic plan. This is what we base our budget and all our planning off of. We'll be involving community stakeholders, our personnel. It's very comprehensive. I've been through a couple of them, and it's very, very useful in trying to meet the needs of our communities. Flooding update, although I think the critical portion is past, we're still, our public information officers are still holding media events, and we are asking that if people choose to recreate near water, we're asking them to designate what we call water watchers. This is to keep an eye on children and pets to prevent an accidental fall-in. And we're going to continue to monitor the process as the warm weather and the snow melt continues. I wanted to mention that Battalion Chief Scott McBride has announced his retirement. He has been one of your battalion chiefs for many years. He's completed 35 years of service. He's been very instrumental in organizing Utah Task Force 1. He deployed to many national emergencies, including 9/11, the World Trade Center, and Hurricane Katrina. He also helped establish UFA's heavy rescue program. So he's going to be missed, and we wish him well. He served this community very admirably. Also retiring is paramedic Chris Morrison after 22 years. He was one of your original Midvale firefighters, I believe. Is that right? And was he stationed here? So that's going to be a loss for the community, but we've got a lot of able bodies to step in and help fill that role, and he'll be missed. He served your community very well. Promotion, I think that I should mention is Barrett Longinus, or LJ, one of your Midvale firefighters, just was sworn in yesterday, as a matter of fact. And I know he's going to do a great job. He's very excited.
Do we know where he'll be a captain at? Because I had saw that, and I know Barrett, but not sure where.
Where LJ's going to be?
Yeah.
He's staying on B shift, but he'll be on the road initially until.
Yeah.
B shift roving. Okay,
I wouldn't be surprised to see him end up back here if he saw an opening, so
that would be great.
he loves this community.
Yeah.
Let's see, just quickly, the June safety message that has been sent out for your social media to be posted is, with summer upon us, we want all our citizens to be safe this year by taking some precautions regarding fires around their home, specifically campfires that they may want to have in their backyard as the summer progresses. There are some very specific requirements and guidelines in the fire code for these, such as the diameter of the fuel load can't be more than 3 feet in diameter or 2 feet high. It has to be 25 feet away from any combustible structure. The barbecue grills have to be at least 10 feet away. And there are some other very good guidelines in there for your citizens to look at. An important one is to supervise children and pets and make sure that someone's watching at all time and it's completely put out when they leave. There's also going to be a safety message with fireworks along with guidelines of when fireworks are allowed, and along with a very strong admonition by fire code officials and other fire officials that the safest way to enjoy fireworks this season is to attend a professional shoot. We will be posting some alternative ways to celebrate the 4th other than fireworks, movie night, those glow-in-the-dark bracelets and necklaces and glasses for kids. I've done that with my grandkids. It's a big hit. So we'll be posting that also with some information. Your citizens can also go to our website, www.unifiedfire.org. There's a fireworks restricted map. There are a few restricted areas here in Midvale, specifically along the Jordan River. And they can type in their address, and it will zoom right in and show them if they're in a restricted area for fireworks or not. So that's very useful to go to. And lastly, I would like to recognize your fire crew here, Captain Chad Green and his group. Happy to have them here. They're doing blood pressure checks at the senior centers 2 Thursdays every month. And I was over talking to them today, and they very much appreciate having the crews come over and do that. It provides a very valuable service, of course, to the senior citizens, and they love having the firefighters there. I was told that having the guys there in the uniform makes it really kind of personable and puts them at ease, so that if they ever end up having to call them, they can kind of associate a face with the uniform and makes them less anxious. So really appreciate them doing that, and we're, I think, going to continue that at least through the summer. So look forward to doing that and some other community activities. That's my report. Any questions for me?
If I may, Chief, I just also want to thank the crews. I know that with school getting out, there's been a lot of end-of-school field days, and I've seen the photos online of our trucks getting over there, and so thank you for that. I know that our kids appreciate it. I know my kids made comments about it. I've got one in elementary who was pretty excited that happened and expressed how wet his shoes were when he got home. So just appreciate you doing that.
They do a lot of quiet little service things that sometimes go unnoticed, so thank you for bringing that up, Mayor.
And Chief, if they ever want to come over here to do blood pressure checks, we could probably use them from time to time as well.
I'm sure they could probably do that. Any other questions or comments? Okay.
Not seeing any.
Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Chief. All right, so we do have 2 proclamations this month. That means you get to hear me read for a minute. The first is proclamation declaring June as Pride Month, and the second is a proclamation declaring June 19th as Juneteenth. And I need to correct myself because Councilmember Gettle is going to read our first one. Or right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. I just wanted to comment a little bit first, as I do every year. Midvale, the little engine that could. We, despite being the 34th most populated city in Utah, we're actually the 9th most populated as far as LGBTQ households go, and number 7 if you just take into account the percentage of households. So we're right below Salt Lake City as far as percentage of LGBTQ households. That's what the most recently available statistics for the 2020 census. The website also gave Midvale an overall snackability rating of 7.5 out of 10, which I thought was good. Salt Lake City gets a 6 out of 10, so we're a little bit more snackable than Salt Lake City. Also, just in Midvale, you know, we have LGBTQ employees, we have LGBTQ public safety workers, we have LGBTQ teachers. You know, if you know an LGBTQ person is what I'm saying. And we've come a long way over the years. 2022 and 2023 seem to have regressed a little bit. We've seen some issues in Utah regarding transgender rights that we could definitely do a better job of, I think, in the state. But here in Midvale, I've always found it to be a very welcoming city for everyone, and we would continue to welcome anyone into Midvale. And based on that, I would love to read our declaration here, declaring June 2023 as Pride Month, if I can just find that in my meeting packet. Here we go. I got it. Thanks, Mayor. Okay. Whereas the June 1969 riots at the Stonewall Inn in New York City precipitated the modern fight for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer LGBTQ rights, and whereas on June 11th, 1999, President Clinton issued a proclamation designating June as Gay and Lesbian Pride Month, and in June 2009, President Obama expanded it to Lesbian, Gay, Bisexual, and Transgender Pride Month. And whereas the LGBTQ community contributes immensely to our society in areas of science, education, religion, government, and sports, and whereas LGBTQ residents and employees have made and continue to make important and lasting contributions to Midvale City and the state of Utah, and whereas Midvale City has a long-standing commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion, and has shown a commitment to promoting principles of fairness and justice for all residents and employees regardless of sexual orientation or gender identity. And whereas celebrating LGBTQ Pride Month provides awareness of and advocacy for the LGBTQ community and is an opportunity to strengthen alliances, build acceptance, and advance equitable rights.
Now, therefore, let it be resolved that I, Mayor Marcus Stevenson, and the Midvale City Council hereby proclaim June 2023 as LGBTQ Pride Month in Midvale City. Thank you, Dustin. Appreciate you doing that.
Yep, thanks, Mayor.
All right, proclamation declaring June 19th as Juneteenth. Whereas Juneteenth, also known as Freedom Day or Emancipation Day, is celebrated each year on June 19th in the United States to commemorate the end of slavery. And whereas President Abraham Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation on New Year's Day in 1863, which ordered freeing of all slaves in states that were rebelling against Union forces. And whereas the message of freedom finally reached African Americans in Texas on June 19th, 1865, when Union General Gordon Granger, backed by nearly 2,000 troops, arrived in the city of Galveston and made the announcement. And whereas those who were freed from bondage celebrated their long overdue emancipation on June 19th. And whereas on June 17, 2021, President Biden signed the Juneteenth National Independence Day Act, which established Juneteenth as an official federal holiday. And whereas our nation commemorates Juneteenth, a chance to celebrate human freedom, reflect on the grievous and ongoing legacy of slavery and rededicate ourselves to rooting out the systemic racism that continues to plague our society as we strive to deliver the full promise of America to every American. And whereas the late Congressman Elijah Cummings said, our children are the living messengers we send to a future we will never see. Whereas we strive to work together to build a country we're all proud to pass along to our children, one where the foundational promises and ideals of America ring true for every child and every family. And whereas Midvale City recognizes Juneteenth as a day to celebrate the power and resilience of Black Americans who have endured generations of oppression in the ongoing journey toward equal justice, equal dignity, equal rights, and equal opportunity in America. Now, therefore, let it be resolved that I, Mayor Marcus Stevenson, and the City Council of Midvale City do hereby proclaim that on Monday, June 19, 2023, Midvale City will recognize and participate in the national celebration of Juneteenth. Pass that down. All right, so we're going to move into the public comments portion of our agenda. Now, if there is anybody here who wishes to publicly comment on our tentative budget or any budget-related items, you will do that later in the agenda. If you have any comments that do not regard a tentative budget, now would be the time to come up, and you would be given 3 minutes. Do we have any public comments? Oh, come on up. And just please state your name for the record.
Okay. My name is Zachary Webb. I am a resident of Midvale City. I live in 117 East Calbourne Lane, Easttown Villages. And I'm come to the council to present a problem of drivability, I guess you could say. So exiting Durham Street from Easttown Villages onto State Street, whether you're turning left or right, there's a problem of semi-trucks with their trailers parking right there next to that opening. And it's a hazard. Even if you're turning right, the easiest, safest turn, if there's a truck there on the left, then sometimes you don't have visibility. And so my layman suggestion is that it be marked red, or there be some sort of law enforcement to prevent parking there. It's also next to a bus stop. Sometimes those semi-truck drivers will park in front of the bus stop. So this is the problem I present to the council and hope to have a response.
Mayor, could I just ask a follow-up question?
Of course.
Have you noticed especially the tractor trailer parking, are they there overnight, multiple nights, or just like, a nap, for lack of a better word? If you've noticed.
I haven't kept track of if it's the same vehicle or not.
Okay.
I can tell you that today, about an hour and a half ago when I left my place, there were 2 semi-trucks that were parked right there.
Okay, because we have that issue in other places. In fact, it's one of the items on our agenda tonight to talk about some of those parking restrictions for larger vehicles. So hopefully that's something, I'm with you on that one. Like, I think that, everyone deserves a place to park for a certain amount of time, but, at some point you gotta keep moving, especially if you're a big truck like that. So I'm with you on that one. I think that's something we can definitely do something about, and pretty soon if we can agree as a council.
Okay. So as Councilmember Gettle just mentioned, this is an issue that we've seen in other parts of the city that, if I'm not mistaken, UPD has been enforcing on. And so Nate, I'm going to look at you unless you have a different idea. They'll get contact information from you, and then we can follow up on as we look into what we can do in that area.
Mm-hmm.
Just to, this will be something we'll need to coordinate with UDOT, since it's on State Street, which is a state highway, which is outside of our jurisdiction. So this will be an issue that we'll need to.
Can I jump in real quick? Sorry. So online, there's an application that you can apply to the Traffic Control Committee. And then it will go through an internal process with the engineer at Streets, Public Works, and any outside entities that need to be involved. So if you get online and fill out that application, you can just go through that process.
Okay, I will do that.
Thank you.
Okay,
Okay, all right.
we appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Appreciate bringing that to our attention. There it is. Okay. And then just please state your name for the record.
My name is Molly Swanger. I'm with the League of Women Voters, and I sent something over to Laura, an invite to our meeting on Saturday. So I can invite two of you for free lunch and other programming fun. It is really short notice, but it's Saturday from 10 to 2, and Laura has my contact info. So if you can, just let me know, and I'll get you on the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, do we have any other public comments? Come on up. And just state your name for the record.
Hello, my name is Christopher Meinzer. I belong to District 4 on 7924 Wilson Street. My reason for coming up today was to discuss an issue in my neighborhood of like a string of theft. Things keep getting stolen from my neighborhood. And I was just curious to know if any of members of council or anybody else sitting up here knows about setting up a neighborhood watch or else creating a neighborhood watch in their own neighborhood, or if that's something that you all participate in, and how I could create something to create a more strong community where I live.
Well, I think maybe one of the things too that we can do when you're done is we can step out with the chief and just sort of talk about some options around there. I'm not familiar with your the specific theft issues that you're specifically talking about, but we can talk about it a little bit more and see what we can come up with in order to help out with that.
Okay, and not only is it theft, but also just like petty vandalism, stuff like that. Like just signs of the city or my neighborhood being less safe than it was. I mean, I grew up there for 20 years and I've never seen this sort of stuff. Like I see people that like, walk around that don't belong there, and I just feel a bit more uneasy than I usually am in my own town. So it feels.
Will
So I
you
just wanted
mention
to
where
bring that
that
to
was
attention.
again?
I'm sorry.
Will you mention where that was again?
District 4.
Wilson, it's by us. And it has, I mean, I live over close to you, and someone broke into my car 3 days ago.
Exactly.
You know,
Yeah.
but my car was unlocked. It feels like we have a lot of opportunists at the moment, right, where they're not necessarily doing damage to property. They're like looking for unlocked vehicles or walking into people's driveways and stealing from them, which is still unfortunate. And it really frustrates me when, I walked out and in fact, I don't even keep anything in my car because, that's happened. But, a bunch of my papers and stuff were all over the seat. It took me a good 2 minutes to go like, why is my glove compartment? So it is something, it does feel like the spring, I don't know if Chief can speak to this or not. The spring brings those out more than anything, I feel like. But it is a common occurrence. I think it's hard to catch those people.
It is very eerie. Yeah.
So.
One suggestion that might sound completely unrelated is during our harvest days, which is coming up, your community, and I'm not sure if you do already, could have a block party.
Block party.
And it's just a way to meet more neighbors and, even if it's not like an official neighborhood watch, just talking to your neighbors and, the police and council members and the mayor come to those block parties. And it's just a good place to maybe talk about some of those issues and see who else is having problems like that.
I was thinking the same thing, but I was curious to know how might you be able to initiate something like that?
We've got right behind you our communications director sitting right back there. Laura, will you raise your hand again? She's helps out with the block parties along with Unified Police, so she can talk to you about that.
Great, thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, any other public comments? Okay, seeing none, move on. First up, my report, I've got a few things. The first being that we've announced that we're putting a bond on the ballot, or let me say this, that we are proposing to put a bond on the ballot this November to help us secure a new rec center in our community. This has been posted online, but this is an opportunity that we get once every 10 years to go through this process with Salt Lake County. It's something that our residents have asked us for time and time again, to bring in a new community pool and other recreation amenities. Our most recent estimate for a recreation center is around 45 million, and our entire general fund being 25 million. There's no financially responsible way for us to do it on our own, so we have to rely on our partnership with Salt Lake County, but we know this is going to be a heavily competitive process, so I'm really excited that we're moving forward with this, and ultimately it's residents who get the opportunity to vote to say, is this something we want to do or not? So I'm excited that we're doing that. We just rolled out a survey that can be found online at engagemidvale.com. Where we can get all the feedback of what residents would like to see in a new rec center if we do secure one. So that's really exciting. Mostly, so for council members, I'm trying to think, I couldn't remember if I'd mentioned this before, but just an update with an issue going on with Unified Police, and that the board will vote on tomorrow, is that we currently have an extra lieutenant in the organization. So long story short is that there was an individual, a lieutenant, who was sent on, from my understanding, is part of in the military reserves, and was sent on a deployment for a while. And during that time, the decision was made that we needed to backfill that position with the anticipation that one of the chiefs was going to retire. Not Chief Thomas, that one of the chiefs was going to retire, and then that was going to create natural movement in the organization. This individual is back from deployment, and the chief that was expected to retire has not retired, so now this means that we have an extra lieutenant. This has been a little bit of an issue of the board trying to figure out how to go about this, because paying for an extra position is not necessarily the cheapest thing to do, but you can really hurt somebody in their retirement if you demote them in rank. So we've talked about different options. Also, if we demote somebody, then we're making it so somebody else can't move into the sergeant position. But again, it's not free to keep an extra lieutenant. So tomorrow this will be voted on. But at this point, based on conversations with the board, if this doesn't end up being true, then I will update everyone. But it's likely that we will keep this lieutenant with their pay and rank, but then there are some one-time funding that they're going to propose that we use to offset. There's still an expectation that a chief will retire within the next few months, and so this is kind of a 6-month plan that they are coming up with, of saying we expect this issue to work itself out within 6 months instead of us having to demote somebody. So just know that that's happening, but it is an increased cost. Lastly, our mural festival is this Saturday, our second annual Los Muros on Main festival from 4 to 9 p.m. We're doing 10 new murals. I'd like to say unveil, but technically you can go see most of them right now. They're not all completed, but they're beautiful. You can go walk the street, and I know I talked with some of the artists just out there earlier today. They're super nice. They love to chat with people as you come up and talk to them. So hope that everybody comes and joins us from 4 to 9 p.m. this Saturday. And then for council members, it was a last-minute invite. It just got set up today, but we're going to do a little thank you to all the artists at 3:30 at the Art House. So council members, you have been invited to attend that if you are available, 3:30 on Saturday, so right before the festival in the Art House, to thank the artists. All right, that's all I have. Councilmember Sperry.
I don't have anything this evening, Mayor.
Okay. Councilmember Brown?
I have a few things. I'd like to thank the people that came and spoke about the feasibility study. As far as studies, I'm pretty negative about studies in general. That one was very well done, well presented. And so I appreciate that. I thought, they gave a lot of insight, gave pros, cons. If we can find a way to present that to the community, sort of explain where we're at. I personally like the idea of that phase 1 segment. It has very little impact overall, and maybe we never do any more, or maybe we do more, but it's a good, it would be like a good showpiece, right, for future, and if we have the funds and are able to, I think we should. look into that, or bring that up, sooner than later, because I thought that was a good idea by that guy. So appreciate that and his work for that. Another thing, I feel like one thing we can learn as we sort of fill in small spots with density is how to improve ongoing maintenance requirements for these units. I always sit and hound about the snow removal by those townhomes because they have nowhere to put the snow. And now they had their grounds crew with a full pickup truck and a tipping bed that fit directly between center and the driveway there, blocking Roosevelt for like 9 hours on Saturday. So if you had to leave, Roosevelt became like a one-way street right off of center, which is like super dangerous. And I kept going, oh, any minute they're gonna like dump their, mulch or something and leave. But they just left their truck there. And there was more than one time where it's red curbed. We've done everything we could to say you're not really supposed to be here. And there's times where I was leaving and I was heading, northbound on Roosevelt to go to center. And I just was like, I can't see either direction. And I'm just going to have to drive in the opposite lane. And hopefully no one turns in because there's just going to be an accident, right? Which is unfortunate because that property has space for that stuff. There's like 20% of the property is this gravel pit that is just unused, right? So I think, one thing we need to do is challenge the developers to say, hey, like, you need to be able to sort of house especially if it's close to a major road. My big concern is there's 2 town-owned developments going in on 7200, right? Like 30s and 60s or something. If they do those same things there, we now have multiples of this issue. So the idea of an accident's very high when they just haven't created space to, maintain their property. It's just really frustrating that, I get text messages from neighbors sort of continually like, hey, Roosevelt, I can't use Roosevelt because people aren't really, following the rules for that development. And I don't know how we fix it with them. That guy in general was pretty rude when he kind of walked out. He met me outside and said, I want to make the cheapest product possible and make the most money. That's how much I don't. I wasn't on council yet, so I wanted to talk to him about it, and because he didn't like that we wouldn't lower the parking, so he didn't. I don't think they care, right? But how do we fix that in the future? I don't know. It's a good learning process. It's a template where we could say, hey, where can you put your snow? Where can you put your maintenance vehicles, just for safety purposes, right? And just kind of really frustrated me this weekend because winter's over. I'm like, I won't hear about anything about this property. And sure enough, as soon as sort of spring hit, here we are. So it's something we can just look at and sort of improve. That's what I would, appreciate. And lastly, Arts Council met yesterday. We lost another member on the board, unexpectedly. We are down, I think, 3 members total from what we kind of like to be. So to get a quorum is pretty challenging. So if anyone wants to be on the Arts Council, if anyone knows anybody that wants to be in the Arts Council, reach out. It's a great opportunity. It's a great program. We could use new people and new ideas. And so, if any of you guys, try to push it if you can, and let's see what we can get out of that.
Are they going to post an application process or anything?
I don't know. It was literally unexpected. It was not on the agenda.
If they do any kind of public push, then that would be good, and I'm sure that we can.
I don't know if they've thought that far ahead, so I'll make a note of that the city will help with that.
Do they have to live in Midvale?
No. We have one that lives in West Jordan now. He owns a business in Midvale, so he has a pretty strong tie. We do find that those that live in Midvale or have skin in the game in Midvale stay longer than not, so that's the preference. So that's all.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Beloved?
Nothing this evening.
Okay, Councilmember Gettle.
Thanks, Mayor. I'll be as brief as possible. One, I wanted to just thank everyone. There have been a few issues that have come to my attention through emails and text messages and whatever way that people like to communicate nowadays. And Public Works has been involved, and UPD has been involved, and the city manager, the assistant city manager. So I realized that, you know, it takes a significant amount of time to get some of these issues resolved. And, you know, sometimes we might feel like we're being a thorn in everyone's side, but I've not felt that way with you guys. But I know that, you know, there are things that we don't know that you guys are working on. And, you know, we get one thing that doesn't seem like it's going to be the straw that breaks the camel's back for anyone, but you know, it might be, and you guys do a good job of not making us feel that way. So I appreciate all that you guys have done over the past month or so. There have been quite a number of issues out there that have been dealt with rather quickly, so appreciate that. That being said, now, I did get a message earlier today about this construction on 6th and Main. Apparently, and it's not a story we haven't heard before, but the construction folks are blocking off a significant portion of 6th Avenue so that anyone, you know, trying to come down to Main Street is not able to. One resident said that she has actually gotten out and moved the fence, which is not, please don't do that if you're listening to me. Don't do that, please. But, you know, that's what they're resorting to is moving the construction fence so that it's not jutting out 3/4 of the way into 6th Avenue. Hoping we can maybe just keep our eye on that. I know, Nate, you can probably see all of the construction from your office window. So you could be the point person, I think, on that one. But they did say that it's happening kind of every day at this point, just as that construction gets, you know, more and more intense. I think we need to just make sure that our residents are not being horribly inconvenienced, because, you know, that was not an easy project to sell to the community. And, you know, if they're already being inconvenienced, it's just, hopefully we're not setting ourselves up for, you know, more criticism of that project. So I'd appreciate any eyes and ears we can have on that project. That would be great. Final thing, I use the Jordan River, as I said in our workshop, a lot, and I encourage everyone to get out and take a look. It is in full bloom at this point, and it's really quite magnificent. It's definitely, you know, as they were saying about the canal, it becomes a community asset. We have this beautiful community asset of the Jordan River Trail. I've seen there's a family of pelicans you can see, and anytime you just go out there and take a look at pelicans. It's just not something you see every day. I saw a beaver on Saturday. I've seen California quail, which I know in Utah we're not supposed to mention California, but I think the California quail is okay to mention. But yeah, get out and see them. I tell everyone to just see the pelicans. They're an amazing creature. I don't know how their bodies actually work. It's like there's 3 of them at all times. It's like 3 aliens on the river. Just get out there and check it out. And I've noticed over the years the traffic there has just picked up more and more and more. So it is something, you know, you do have to be careful. You know, don't stand in the middle of the road, because there are bikes and coming from all directions. So if you are going to view the river and the pelicans, I recommend stepping off the trail in order to do it, because there will be bikes whizzing by you. Other than that, Mayor, that's it for me. Thank you.
I will just also add that when you're viewing the pelicans on the Jordan River, please be cautious of the water.
And the water as well.
All right, thank you. City Manager Dahl.
I'm just going to defer my time to City Attorney Garrett Wilcox.
So we received a question this last week with the mayor's article going out in the Journal about the potential bond initiative, about what can or can't be said as council members as this process moves forward. Until the actual resolution that initiates this process, there are essentially no rules or no limitations on what you can and can't do. Once that process has formally been initiated with the resolution, the primary restrictions are going to be on the city. The city can't advocate one way or the other. And the only things that are going to be posted on the city website are essentially the voter pamphlet and positions that are submitted through a process that for residents to be able to advocate one way or the other. As elected officials, you can advocate in your individual capacity for or against the bond. The only restrictions that will be in place are not using your city email address. You'll need to do it from another medium. Again, the city won't be able to expend any funds, so if you want mailers or things like that, that will be your responsibility to fund yourself. And also to make sure that as you're advocating, that you're making it clear that you're speaking for yourself and not on behalf of the city council or the city as a whole.
Any questions for Garrett?
Question. So if someone emails us to our email, our Midvale email address, we can reply to it, correct? Or
You can reply to it. You
Okay.
just have to stay within the bounds of the question that they asked.
okay, thank you.
Good? All right.
Thank you.
And, yeah, and he'll send out a document with that information. What is the recourse if someone accidentally uses their personal email?
Death.
Or, sorry, uses their work email, sorry.
So that'll be left up to the lieutenant governor, but if he finds that there was an intentional violation, it's a $250 fine for the first violation and then $1,000 for each subsequent violation. And it's to the person who violated it. So the city itself will not be on the hook for those violations. It will be the individual violator.
So if someone, just to clarify then, if someone emails us, which happens, and they say, how do you feel about this bond? How should we, without saying, like, I can't say anything, email me at my personal email address and I'll tell you.
The law seems to suggest that as long as it's within the bounds of what they're asking, you can respond using that email address.
Okay.
But if it's, where do I find the website for information about this? You
And you
respond with that, and then you also say, and I really support this.
Okay.
That's gonna be probably out of bounds.
Okay, so it's pretty much common sense. As long as you use common sense, you're probably not gonna run afoul of anything.
That would certainly be the hope.
Okay.
Thank you, Garrett. Good. All right, now on to the fun part. I will say, Christian, I don't know that you get the fun thing of the night. I mean, the next part's really the most exciting, but moving on to our first public hearing item, receive public comment regarding proposed amendments to the Midvale City fiscal year 2023 general fund and other funds as necessary. Whenever you're ready.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Today, my name is Christian Larson, Senior Accountant at Midvale City, and I'm going to be presenting the second and final amendment to the fiscal year 2023 budget. The funds that will be impacted by this amendment are the General Fund, Capital Projects Fund, Water Fund, Sewer Fund, Stormwater, and Information Technology Internal Service Fund. So beginning with the general fund, the increase to use of fund balance would be for $1,093,000. By far the largest portion of this increase is coming from a transfer to capital projects for $1 million. This is a situational transfer. The state requires that unreserved fund balance in the general fund be less than 35% of general fund revenues. So this transfer would enable us to have the flexibility that in the event that we are in excess of that 35%, we have the ability to transfer those funds to capital projects and remain in compliance with that requirement. So the next line item is the finance benefits line item, and that is an increase of $5,000. This is coming as a result of employees' elected benefits changing over the course of the year. So an employee has changed their election to be a more expensive option. The same thing has happened with the Public Works admin benefits for $13,000. And the next line item is for the information technology software. This is within the general fund, the IT department. and it is increasing by $23,000. This is as a result of the IT department making a number of software purchases for various departments within the city. The very next one is the city attorney's professional services budget, which is increasing by $15,000, and this was for legal services that the city attorney's office needed. The next line item is for Harvest Days fireworks, and this is an increase of $13,000, and this was for the 2022 Harvest Days celebration. Next is the Harvest Days miscellaneous services, and this is an increase of $5,000, and this was for the event planning of the 2022 Harvest Days celebration. And finally, within the general fund, there's an increase of $19,000. This was for road salt that was purchased for the Class C roads within the city. Additional salt needed to be purchased due to the severity and number of storms that we experienced during fiscal year 2023. So next is capital projects fund, and this is the other side of the transaction within the general fund. So this is the recognition of the revenue into the capital projects fund, and an increase of $1 million to the transfer in, and a decrease in the use of fund balance for $1 million to be the other side of that transaction. Next is the water fund. A prior budget amendment had reduced the chlorination and equipment maintenance budget by $30,000. This amendment should have increased the use of fund balance instead of reducing the chlorination budget. So this amendment essentially reverses that and restores the chlorination budget and takes from the general fund, or from fund balance. Next is the sewer fund, and salaries are increasing by $32,000 and benefits are increasing by $41,000. This is coming as a result of 2 water fund employees getting promotions and a larger allocation of their salary being coded to the sewer fund. And also several employees within the sewer fund had their elected benefits change as well, and that's the reason for the spike in the benefits. Next is the stormwater fund, and we are increasing total expenses by $14,000, $6,000 for salaries, and $8,000 for overtime. 2 stormwater employees received career ladder progression during the year, which resulted in an increase in the salaries within the stormwater fund. And overtime increased by $8,000, which just came as a result of overtime being needed to be used throughout the year. And finally is the Information Technology Internal Service Fund. And this is having salaries increased by $4,000 and benefits increased by $400. And this is coming as a result of a hire for a part-time temporary position for an information technology technician. This position will not be part of the fiscal year 2024 budget and is just going to be part of this 2023 budget. And any questions or comments?
Questions or comments from the council? Okay, seeing none. I'll just make a comment for anybody listening to Christian say fund balance a million times, that that's essentially a savings account. I think those who work in finance will kill me for saying that, but that's what it is. All right, seeing no clarifying questions from the council, I would ask for a motion to go into public comments.
Mayor, I motion we move into a public comment.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, we'll move into public comments. Thank you, Christian. Again, if you're here for the tentative budget, we do have an item after this that will be the tentative budget. But with that, do we have any public comments on these amendments to the fiscal year 2023 budget?
Mayor, I move that we close the public comment section.
Okay,
Second.
we have a motion. Oh, come on up.
I retract my motion.
You'll need to just state your name again, please.
Christopher Meinzer. Is there any way that we could spend less money on fireworks?
It's a.
I love
They're
fireworks.
laughing at you. I think they're laughing because they probably had that same discussion.
That is for the fireworks that were purchased for the 2022 Harvest Days. So the Harvest Days that happened in August, so that money's already been spent. The Harvest Days budget is really tricky because it spans 2 fiscal years, but that money was already spent.
And for full disclosure, I have just asked the question to Laura. I was just curious to know what our total budget was for fireworks for this year. So I don't know if anyone has that number off the top of their head.
It's $13,000 again.
And just so you know, because I hate what it does for our air quality, and I agree with you,
We do have a resident-led Harvest Days committee, and they're the ones that we let choose how Harvest Days is going to go. So they have continued to choose to do fireworks. It's definitely cheaper options than other options, like drone shows are incredibly expensive. So they've chosen to continue down the path of traditional fireworks, and I mean, at this point, the council has supported them, and again, it's a resident-led group.
Right. Yeah, it's been a great tradition throughout the years, but yeah, $13,000 is a lot of money. That's all.
Thank you. All right, any other public comments?
Glenn's new best friend.
Okay, I would.
Mayor, I move that we close public hearing.
Okay, we have a motion to close.
Second.
And a second. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Yes.
Any opposed? Okay, public comment is closed. Thank you. Any further council discussion on that? Okay, Christian, we don't need to take action on that, correct? No. Okay. Thank you. All right, seeing no discussion, I'll move on to item B, receive public comment on the Midvale City tentative fiscal year 2024 budget, fiscal year 2024 fee schedule, and fiscal year 2024 pay plan beginning July 1st, 2023 and ending June 30th, 2024. Mariah.
Hello, this is going to look really familiar because this is the public hearing on the tentative budget, which was presented to you when you adopted it in May. I will go through and outline some of the other things at the end of the presentation that have kind of changed or shifted or are still kind of unsettled right now in the budget process. So, for our budget timeline, you've seen this a few times. We had our budget retreat on March 30th. You guys adopted the tentative budget on May 2nd. We're holding a public hearing today, and on the 20th, you'll either adopt the final budget or we will move into truth and taxation. Just so you know, if we move into truth and taxation, we would have our public hearing on August 22nd. That's the date the county has set for cities to hold their public hearing for truth and taxation, and would adopt our final budget that night, just so you know. What the tentative budget is the city's estimated revenues and expenditures for July 1st, 2023 to June 30th, 2024. Tentative budget is presented for each fund, and all departments within the city fall within a fund. The tentative budget has been prepared by the finance department and the city manager, who is our official budget officer for the city. And it reflects an effort to maintain the city's current level of service in these uncertain economic times. The tentative budget is the first draft of the budget, and it was adopted by the city on May 2nd, as is required by state code. In the general fund, the tentative budget has revenues and expenditures for the general fund at just over $25 million, which is actually a 1% decrease from the amended fiscal year 23 budget. Okay, I'm realizing this is from what you guys have adopted as the amended fiscal year 23 budget as presented in this budget, not what the amended budget Christian just presented to you, just to make that clear moving forward. Our projected new ongoing funds are about $1.1 million, and the proposed used to fund balance is $359,000. For revenues in the general fund, we have about $16.8 million in taxes, and any numbers in as we're talking about revenues that are red, were either decreased or had no changes to it this year. There's no growth or anything built into that. As I was projecting these numbers, I looked at our year-to-date actuals and historic trends, and really tried to be conservative in our revenue projections. So licenses and permits, $830,000. Our intergovernmental revenue is about $3.8 million, which includes a $500,000 in our increase in our shelter mitigation funding. We're having about $2.4 million in charges for services, $847,000 in fines and forfeitures, $173,000 in miscellaneous revenue. That's mainly interest income, and then a decrease in the use of fund balance from fiscal year 23 of $359,000. Our tax revenue breakdown is for sales tax, we are projecting $10.7 million. That is a 0% change from this fiscal year. Excuse me. That we just, with what's going on in the economy and not knowing, and that being a volatile revenue source, we thought is the most conservative thing to do would be to project no change in that. For our property taxes, it's about $3.2 million in the tentative budget. That's estimating 1.5% of new growth. We had 2.3% last year, and this tentative budget does include an 8.6 property tax increase, which totals to about $250,000. And on the 22 average household numbers, that's about $19 per household per year. For franchise taxes, $2.2 million, and the total of our delinquent property tax, telecommunication tax, transient room tax, and motor vehicle in lieu of tax is about $720,000. A reminder, and we've talked about this since we started the budget retreat, is in this year's budget process, all departments participated in an exercise to decrease budgets. We looked at the past 5 years of actuals and had that as the starting point of our budgets to, instead of just looking at last year's budget and building off that, had people really look at where they could cut back possibly in their budgets. So in the general fund, the ongoing expenditures that are requested for public safety is about $725,000 increase. For salary increases, the total in the general fund is $291,000. We did get a 4% increase in our benefits. That increased benefits in the general fund by $191,000. We have fleet replacement costs of $219,000. There's an addition of a full-time facilities technician. The cost to the general fund of that is $63,000. Software cost increases that are just the increase in the ongoing cost of the software the city uses is $32,000. We have a request for splash pad and playground maintenance of $25,000. And then all the small departmental requests during that cutting exercise where they did say, no, I do actually need a little bit more. All of them were under $6,000, but total over the general fund departments totaled to $68,000. And then we have a budget for a community survey for $23,000. For one-time expenditures in the general fund, we have $130,000 for grants, an addition of $50,000 for outside legal counsel for some of the anticipated stuff coming in the coming year. Harvest Days, a total of $91,000. We have an election this coming year, so we've budgeted $30,000 for that. $55,000 for tree maintenance, and although there's an ongoing budget for softfill for playgrounds, there was a one-time need for a little extra this year for $3,000. So now we'll break down the general fund into different kind of department divisions. So for the general government in the general fund, the total budget is about $3.5 million, which makes up 14% of the general fund. These budgets have increased 7% from the current fiscal year. Notable requests are, and you'll see this across all the departments, is the salary and benefit increases. There's an FTE that has moved from community development into admin, so that is a change. The community survey and the election costs. Public safety is just about $12 million, makes up 49.2% of the general fund. This is a 6% increase from the current fiscal year. We do have a 6.3% increase in the UPD contract, and our animal control contract increased as well. In administrative services, our budget is $2.7 million, which makes up about 11% of the general fund. There's a 1.5% increase in this budget, which is the salaries and benefits and the software increases. Public works, that comes out of the general fund is about $3 million, makes up 12% of the general fund as well. They have a 6% increase, with the notable request being the salary and benefit increases, the facilities technician, and the tree splash pad and playground maintenance. Community development has a budget of about $1.6 million, which makes up 6.4% of the general fund. Their budgets have decreased by 13%, although they do have the salary and benefit increases. The FTE that moved from community development into admin it decreased their budgets overall. The debt service fund that the city has exists just to make debt service payments. The debt service payments that are paid out of the general fund include our sales tax bonds and the lease payment to the MBA, and then we have two state infrastructure loans that are paid. They're kind of passed through developers. One comes through the RDA and one comes straight through the general fund, or the debt service fund. In the capital projects fund, there's a total budget of about $2.1 million. We have a use of capital fund balance for our revenues as well as sales tax. We have state money and grants coming in to fund facility maintenance, general plan update, put more money towards the recreation center, do sidewalk, curb and gutter, and pavement management and replacement. We're going to do a transportation project with the HB 244 money and work on the Jordan Canal Bridge out of that. Those are the projects that are budgeted in the tentative budget out of the capital projects fund. The water fund, Revenues are about $12 million. This is a decrease of 14%. Both the water and the sewer fund budgets are prepared using the 5-year comprehensive financial sustainability plan that was completed in fiscal year 2021. Other notable things is that we are moving the bonding that we had in fiscal year 23 into fiscal year 24. And then there's also a decrease because we've collected all of our American Rescue Plan Act funds in fiscal year 22. So there's none of that in this budget. Expenditures in the water fund are just about $12 million. This is a decrease of 3%. We do have in this budget wholesale water contract increase of $60,000, and then the water master plan and capital projects that we'll be bonding for, as well as bond issuance costs related to that. In the sewer fund, the revenues are just over $5 million. This is a decrease of 2%. Again, this is prepared using the comprehensive financial sustainability plan, and the bonding in the sewer fund has also been moved. Those will happen concurrently for the water and sewer funds. The total expenditures in the sewer fund are just over $4 million. This is a 5.2% increase. This has the salary and benefit increases here, as well as increases in our South Valley Water operating and capital costs, and there's bond issuance costs as in this budget as well. In the stormwater fund, the total budget is $2.2 million. This is a 2.9% increase. There's a stormwater master plan and rate study currently underway. So this budget, as it currently stands, requires a use of fund balance to balance. And the staff is recommending that in this situation, because when the master plan is completed and the rate study, we'll be able to figure out how we need to adjust the rates we charge the residents in order to avoid further use of fund balance for operating moving forward. The street lighting fund budget is $379,000. That's a 10% decrease. The only really notable change is the salaries and benefit increases. Sanitation fund has a $1.5 million budget, which is a 7.7% increase. This is essentially because our contract with ACE increased 7.1%. This budget also includes a 10.5% increase in our sanitation rates, which is, we had a 7.1% increase this year as well, but we only increased sanitation rates by 3.5%. So we're making the 7.1% from this year and the 3.5% from last year. We also had an increase in our tipping fees. The telecommunications fund budget totals just under $1 million. This is a 2% increase, and the only thing paid out of this is our pledge payments to Utopia, and those are on a bond schedule. The fleet fund, which is an internal service fund, has a total budget of $1.5 million. This is a 17% decrease, and the notable requests here are part of the new fleet and facilities technician would also come out of this fund. And then we have vehicle and equipment replacement schedules for $680,000. In the information technology fund, which is our other internal service fund, the total budget is $193,000. This is a 52% decrease from the current year. That's because we had put money last year for our software initiative. That's not in this budget, and it was $200,000 last year. That's why it's half the amount of money. We have salary and benefit increases, and then ongoing hardware replacement that's on a schedule similar to vehicles of $100,000. So some of the things that, since the tentative budget was adopted by you, that are just not solidified, that we're still looking at, are kind of moving around pretty much constantly, is that there really is a possibility of a lower property tax increase as we're getting some different numbers in from the county and things are shifting around. We're still working on finalizing the homeless shelter mitigation funding and what our final dollar amount will be for that. There's actually a decrease in the UPD member assessment in the tentative budget that the UPD board adopted from what is in our budget. And we have made adjustments in our IT department operations and configurations that is decreasing expenditures. We have a few additional small one-time department requests, again, under that $6,000 that I presented before. We have the addition of GO bond election costs. There's an additional cost of having the GO bond go out in the election. And then there's updates to both the operating and capital costs in the water and sewer funds, and a few of the other enterprise funds have some other operating costs that are in the tentative budget as well. Also, as a part of this, the fee schedule is tied in with this. So the changes to the fee schedule that we're proposing for fiscal year 2024 are adding business license penalty fees. There's an 8% increase in water and sewer rates. That was passed by a resolution in 2021. We've separated out water meter set fees and water connection fees to better reflect what the city's paying to provide those services. We are adding fees for water meter damage and construction water tampering, and then it includes a 10.6% increase in waste collection fees. And then the fiscal year 2024 pay plan changes are just adjusting all grades for the 5% COLA that's proposed and adding grades for new positions and or career ladders that we're putting into place, and then making market adjustments where applicable. That was a lot of information, sorry.
Thank you. Any clarifying questions for Mariah before we open public comment?
So you said, when you said it might be possible not for an 8% increase,
Yeah.
so is next week is when you'll be able to?
Yeah, we kind of got to wait for the certified tax rate and then kind of solidify some of these other things. What is the UPD assessment going to be? What's the homeless mitigation shelter funding look like? We need to bring all those things together, and they're just not solid enough yet. But it looks like there's a possibility it might not have to be 8.6%. Could be lower than that.
Will we have that information by the next meeting?
You'll have that meeting, yeah, in the packet for the next meeting. Yep.
Okay. With that, I'd ask for a motion to open public comment.
Mayor, I motion that we open the public comment.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Yes.
Any opposed? All right, with that, public comment is open. If we do have any public comments, I invite you to come up, state your name for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Hi, my name's Carla Avila Esparza, and in your budget, there was like a graph, and it said some 150,000 was going to general expenses. All right, well, what is capital projects?
Mariah, will you come to the microphone so we make sure?
Capital projects are anything that the city's going to be able to count as an asset moving forward. Is that clear enough?
I guess it's more of a question than a comment, and that's okay. Thank you.
It might be easier to just explain it's like roads and water projects and other things like that.
Yeah, anything that's going to, how do I not make that super, infrastructure, make it, I don't know how to not make it financy.
Well, just by explaining the type of things.
Yes, the type of things, roads, sidewalks. Okay, yeah, so anything when we're done with our audit or whatever, what we're gonna take and capitalize that and count it as an asset for the city, those are the things we fund out of the capital projects fund. Yeah.
Thank you.
Carla, was that all you had? Just to make sure.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, just quick. Do we have any other public comments?
Christopher Manzer. So I just wanted to say I like to see that the budget was increased for stormwater, because I remember back in 2021, I believe it was Wasatch Street under the underpass. It filled up quite a bit. I remember seeing a guy walk out into the water and it was up to his chest. It's pretty deep. Was there any action taken to prevent that underpass gets filled with water like that ever again? Like, what was the cause of that? It was just a heavy storm that night.
Yeah, so the stormwater, you're correct. The stormwater runs underneath the bridge.
Yeah.
And UDOT has some pumps that are supposed to take that water and pump it downstream. Those pumps failed, and so it filled up. So that's what happened there.
Great. And that money that increased budget would go towards stuff like that, or is that like out of the Midvale jurisdiction?
No, that money would go to maintain your stormwater system, yes.
Awesome.
Okay. Any other public comments? Going once, going twice.
Mayor, I move that we close public comment.
Okay. We have a motion and a second to close the public comment. Any discussion on that? All in favor, please say aye.
Yes.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, public comment is closed. You all just do not like saying aye. That's fine. It's all right.
Yes.
It's okay. All right, any other further discussion from the council or questions from Mariah?
No, I think we'll have plenty of time in the upcoming council meetings to discuss it more.
I'll just say, relatively speaking, I feel like some days my job is hard, but in many ways it's easy when I know that Mariah and Matt are really the ones that had the hard conversations with our departments, where even as we look through those numbers and we see increases and we talk about a property tax increase, that really in our overall budget, we cut by 1% across the board. And that is really all of our departments doing really hard work to say, how can we be more efficient and effective with our taxpayer dollars? So thank you, Mariah, for leading that and presenting this budget. I'm excited to see the numbers here in a couple weeks and how they're updated.
I did want to just clarify one thing. You just said I heard meetings. The next meeting is the one that we have to approve it in.
I will amend my statement then to
I just want to make sure we're clear that we get one more bite at the apple.
one meeting.
Okay. Now I have to find my place in here. All right, moving on to the consent agenda. Consider minutes of May 16th, 2023. Is there a motion to accept the consent agenda?
Mayor, I move that we accept the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that? Rory, will you call roll?
Yes, Councilmember Sperry.
Aye.
Glover.
Aye.
Brown.
Yes.
And Gettle.
Yes.
Okay, that passes. Thank you. We've got two different action items tonight. The first one, consider resolution number 2023 R22, approving an agreement between Midvale City and Noland and Son Construction for the installation and construction of a 20-inch water line and meter vault connection along 700 West and from Winchester Avenue to 6980 South. Glenn.
Good evening. For the record, I did not pay Christopher to be here this evening, but I would like to hire him. Sorry. We'll just get into it. In 2020, you're fully aware that the city adopted a water master plan identifying needed capital projects. The project that we're going to talk about tonight is 31 in that plan, and I think I have a pointer. You can see the green line at the very north end, and you see how it leaves our jurisdiction a little bit. That'll be key here in a moment. The purpose of this connection is to provide a west side water source. It will be a new connection to Jordan Valley. We will be able to remotely control it and monitor it via SCADA, which is something we don't have on the west side right now. In addition to that, we do not really have a backup source to the west side if we have an issue with the tanks or the lines that come down. And this will also facilitate some future projects where some of that stuff might need to be shut down to make that happen, if that makes sense. So a quick breakdown, timeline. Wish this raised.
Sorry, just that last thing you're saying is some of the sources to the west side for water may need to be shut down in order to do other projects on the east side. And so having this source will allow that to happen.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. Just a quick timeline. The summer of 2021, Jordan Valley updated and reconfigured a vault in 7th West in Winchester. That is in Murray, outside of our jurisdiction, but that's the closest connection. Part of that turnout did include a Midvale connection. It's currently stubbed out of their vault, and that's what we need to connect to. Murray City does have a hard deadline of August 15th for us to be out of their jurisdiction. They've got some projects of their own, and I believe that there's a school issue. So we are on a very hard deadline, which we'll get to the rule suspension request later. This project originally called for 20-inch welded steel pipe, which is Jordan Valley's standard, but due to supply chain issues, we wouldn't be able to meet the deadline if we went with that product. Jordan Valley did allow an exception, and we are going to use high-pressure 20-inch PVC pipe. The contractor confirmed that they can get that and meet the August 15th deadline. Excuse me. There are a few easements to finalize. with the property owner at 68 13th South, 7th West, where our meter vault will be placed. Jordan Valley will maintain the line from Winchester to this vault, and we will maintain it afterwards. That's kind of why they get to standardize the welded steel pipe, but again, they gave us an exception. We had a good discussion with the property owner. Verbal agreements were worked out, and with the contractor starting at the north end and moving south, we'll have time to get the T's crossed in that paperwork. So per the city's purchasing policy, a request for bid was released. 4 respondents bid on the project: Nolan, Van Con, Cobb, and Condi. Proposals were weight rated on approach, scope, and cost by a diverse selection committee. And with the change in pipe, we went back out to bid and have them rebid it. Van Con was non-responsive, but Nolan and Son scored very high in approach and scope and is the low bidder. Sorry. So I am asking to suspend the rules and move forward with this agreement. Are there any questions?
Questions or comments for Glenn?
The new piping, it's okay? I mean,
Yes. Yes.
It lasts as long as the other?
Yes. Yes.
Supposed to.
Yeah. And honestly, that's Jordan Valley's to maintain. So they're very comfortable with it. So so are we.
Good.
If we adopt this tonight, how soon do you start?
Be digging tomorrow.
Yesterday, tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah, we had a meeting with the contractor yesterday, and they're ready to go. They just need approval.
Mayor, I move that we suspend the rules and adopt Resolution 2023-R23,
Oops, sorry.
authorizing the mayor to sign an agreement with Nolan and Son Construction for the installation and construction of the 700 West Pipeline and meter vault.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that? Rory, will you call roll?
Yes, Councilmember Glover?
Aye.
Brown?
Yes.
Gettle?
Yes.
And Sperry?
Aye.
Okay, that passes. Thank you. Action item B, consider resolution number 2023-R23, approving an agreement with the redevelopment agency of Midvale City to participate in the Midvale, Maine Annual Mural Festival by allowing the installation of a mural at 7505 South Holden Street. Now, Cody, they got started today, so what if we vote this down?
We have a term sheet, and so I guess worst case scenario, we could just go to the term sheet and make the agreement match the term sheet, but we like the agreement better, so. Yeah, that's basically the spoiler, is that you adopted a term sheet back in end of March, but the revised newest version of the agreement has some incongruity with the term sheet, or some stuff that's that we like better in this agreement. And so basically, easiest way is just, hey, here's the full final agreement. How about we consider that? And so the items that were removed are just including maintaining the mural after 3 years, because we just want flexibility in that with the agency for how long it's going to be up for. Reimbursement for painting over the mural. I mean, we're very similar entities. The artist's right of first refusal to fix the mural, and the city's right to use the mural in promotional materials. And so there are no other substantive differences between the term sheet approved by the city council and the proposed agreement. So if there's any questions, I'm happy to field those.
Did we find out yet if it's an eagle or a falcon? Because I'm still confused. It could be both. Maybe one is an eagle and one's a falcon. That's what I'm going to tell people.
Exactly. I was going to exactly say that. So.
Okay, any questions or comments for Cody?
It's a raptor. It is.
I just saw on Instagram that the artist who's just going to do this just won some national award for his work, so I think it'll be exciting to have him as part of our festival and his work on City Hall.
I think it was his work with eagle paintings, I believe.
All right, I'd entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move that we pass resolution number 2023-R23, adopting the agreement between the city and the redevelopment agency for the installation of the mural on the northern end of the east-facing wall of City Hall.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on that? Rory, we call roll?
Yes, Councilmember Brown.
Yes.
Gettle.
Just 1 second, I was thinking that that resolution number was the same as the last one, and it is.
The last one should have been 22, but I changed it on Glenn and didn't tell him.
Okay, so we're good.
Sorry, Glenn. No, I didn't tell you we had to change it because something got put
Okay,
off.
so we're good.
We're good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then yes.
Okay, Rory, did you get everybody?
No,
Okay.
Gettle,
Yes.
Sperry,
Aye.
and Glover.
Aye.
Okay, that passes. Thank you. All right, we've got 3 discussion items. Discussion item A, discussion of updating of the city's financial policies. Mariah.
Okay, the city has a set of adopted by resolution financial policies. The purpose of financial policies is to set forth parameters and guidelines for prudent fiscal operational practices and management. The last time these financial policies were updated was in 2018. The policies that are included in the city's financial policies are general and other fund reserves, revenues and expenditures, operating budgets, capital asset management, long-term financial planning, debt, investments, accounting, auditing, and financial reporting, internal control and risk management, local economic development, finance, procurement, and then we're proposing the addition of cash receipting and deposits as well. So the changes that are included in this update are minor clerical changes throughout the document. We have changes throughout as well to make sure that we're matching the Utah State Code where applicable. We have updates to the investment policy and also updates to the procurement policy to reflect the changes we recently made to the city code, and then the addition of a cash handling and deposit policy. In the investment policy, the main thing is we're just updating it to be in line with the Utah Money Management Act and other GFOA best practices. The main part of this is that we're prioritizing investments to first ensure the safety of our principal, then focus on minimizing investment risk, and finally looking at receiving a return on investment. There's also other details about diversification requirements, rules on ethics and conflicts of interest, the use of authorized dealers and advisors, proper internal controls, and correct procedures for performance and reporting investing city dollars. For cash receipting and deposits, this policy outlines the time frame and details that are needed when receiving payments. It details the procedures and requirements for cash security within the city, lists requirements for what should be done at the end of each day to close cash drawers, establishes internal controls for voiding transactions, and specifies duties and responsibilities for deposits and bank reconciliations. That's all. Any questions?
Questions, comments for Mariah?
Great.
Okay,
I'm gonna stay here because the next one's mine too.
thank you. All right, item B, discuss state auditor's office fraud risk assessment. All right.
So a reminder that the state auditor requires that we fill this out. It's a part of our audit requirements, but it needs to be presented to you all. It doesn't get adopted or anything like that by you. It just needs to be presented to you each fiscal year, for each fiscal year. So last year we had a score of 310, which put us in the moderate rating. But we have increased to 355 out of 395 this year, which puts us at a very low risk rating. This is because of just 3 things that increased us by 45%, or 45 points. Well, one is them contingent on you adopting the financial policies next meeting, which would be that we have a cash receipting and deposits written policy. That gives us 5 additional points. We've also added an annual ethical statement to be signed by employees. We put that in our HR packet of annual paperwork that's done by employees, which gives us, I think, 20 points Yeah, and then you guys all helped with this as well because you did the state audit training as the governing body, and that gave us 20 points as well. So this just needs to be presented to you. I'm happy to answer any questions on this if you have it.
Just, what's the practical result of going from moderate risk to very low, other than saying, congratulations, you did a great job putting that together?
Yeah.
Is there anything, that we get out of that lower rating or
Nope.
lower risk level?
Nope, all of this is just put together by the state auditor to just say, like, these are what we think are best practices and that will decrease your risk of fraud.
Okay.
It's what they have learned and seen over time and those sort of things. It's like an ungraded test a little bit there, yeah.
It does, though, create an awareness.
Yes.
Of both staff
Yes.
and for us, an expectation that we expect it to be followed.
Yep.
Okay, if
Yeah.
you don't have it, then there's no expectation.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it does in some sense.
I think that was probably because most entities have a majority of this in the first place, and we get training on internal controls and all those things all the time, but it does formalize that we are talking about it annually and presenting it to you annually and telling you the things that we have done and are doing to decrease the risk of fraud.
Is there anything that, because I see that the risk level is 316 to 355. Is there anything that we can do or anything that you're planning to make that number even better next year?
There's not really, can you scroll down one? So the things that are left is that like someone in your management has a CPA or one of those designations that, like, Christian has a master's degree in accounting, but to be a CPA, he has to get 2,000 hours of working under a CPA. We don't have a CPA. So there's some of this stuff that we don't really have control over that. And also, the only other thing we don't have points for is a formal internal audit function. That's just a pretty intense cost of labor for that. And also, you need enough staff to do that. It's kind of like you hire an internal auditor that's on staff, so that they're just kind of a big resource.
Okay, so it's nothing that we're missing.
And those are the only two things we're missing. So I think we're doing like 2 thumbs up.
I think you're doing great.
Yeah.
I'll just say I know several of the boards I sit on have to go through this same process. I don't think I've seen any of them at this point have as high a score as 355. So none of them are low. They're all doing it. They're all
We're killing it, Dustin.
all
We're
in the
doing
low, but I don't
Excellent job.
quite get into 355. So great job, Ryan.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right, item C, discussion of proposed amendment to Midvale Municipal Code 10-15-160, overnight parking of certain vehicles prohibited.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So as we heard earlier tonight, we still have an ongoing issue with certain oversized vehicles and our ability to enforce against them within Midvale City. Namely, the two issues that we're running into are, one, some of these vehicles are running generators or have condensers, especially if they have, if they're refrigerated semi-trailers that are running and are parked in front of residents' homes. We have adopted a sound ordinance that's based on the Salt Lake County Health Department ordinance. However, to be able to enforce it, we'd have to purchase pretty specialized, certified sound meters and train our officers in order to use those. Our hope is with this amendment, by adjusting the hours to match the same time period as the lower sound requirements, that instead of an officer needing to come up and try and figure out if this truck or whatever it may be is violating the sound ordinance, they can simply just point to the fact that they're oversized, that they're an RV running a generator, that whatever it may be, and say that you're not allowed to park here. The other issue that we've been running into as well is our officers for UPD are quite quite busy at night. This is when they receive most of their calls. And so by extending this as well into the morning at 7 a.m., the hope would be that as we have our daytime officers come on, especially our road officers, our traffic officers, and our code enforcement officer, we may not be able to catch the initial violation at 10 p.m., but hopefully word will go out when someone is knocking on your trailer or your semi-truck, your RV, or whatever it may be at 6:30 in the morning, that they understand that they need to find a legal spot to park rather than doing so on the side of the road.
Have we worked with UPD on this ordinance at all?
We have directly no. So Chief hasn't sat down with me and said this will work, but this does take into account some of the comments that have been made during staff meetings where this issue's been raised with the staffing issues for UPD and their night crew.
Thank you.
As far as the gentleman that talked about blocking vision, don't we still we have ordinances that they can't park so close to a corner, don't we?
That is correct. State code, depending on the driveway, whether it's considered an intersection, some of the signage, all those distances are dependent on those factors. So not knowing the specifics of his particular residence, it may simply be that their bumper doesn't stick past the curb cut. If there's some additional things in place, it may, probably the maximum distance you're looking at is probably 30 feet.
I think one thing I've been impressed with, Garrett, with you and your staff is coming up with solutions that are easier because, like you said, we could have those very expensive calibrated machines measuring noise, or you can just say don't park here between 10 and 6, and that or 10 and 7, and that seems to be a much easier solution to the problem. So I do appreciate that. That you guys took that route rather than a much more circuitous, difficult way of enforcing it. My only concern is the recreational vehicles can kind of be loosely defined. You know, there are like regular trucks that have those like RV kind of attachments to them. Would that be something that would qualify, or are we talking about, you know, like a large Winnebago, for instance?
I think generally in that last, and without it right in front of me, I believe the last category sets some various size requirements. So if we're talking about a Toyota Tacoma with a roof rack and a camping tent, that would not be included in this. But if we're talking about a Winnebago, that would easily fall under multiple categories of this, as well as if you're using a toy hauler or an RV trailer that isn't able to move on its own, those would all be captured by this. The smaller things where you're talking about a full-size pickup truck with, we would probably be looking more to see, does it meet the spirit, which is kind of these size requirements.
Okay. And it might be something for us to think about down the road, but also coming up with some sort of program where, you know, actual residents could get some sort of permit to keep a smaller recreational vehicle on, you know, some public roadway. Because, you know, I think there's a big difference between, I mean, just being honest, there's a big difference between a tractor and trailer parked in a residential street that there is, like, you know, a moderately sized RV. So, you know, to me, the semi-trailer is the one that kind of makes neighborhoods look just a little, I've always said that it doesn't look great. If you're driving through a city and you see a bunch of semi-trailers parked in residential areas, you don't say, wow, I want to live in that city. That city looks great. But that being said, there are residents who live in Midvale and where are they going to park their RV? So I think that could be something we look into in the future and having a permitting process for that.
It's aesthetically, especially on Bingham Junction, I think that looks really terrible. It's like here's this brand new area and it's just a parking lot for semi-trucks. But as far as safety goes, I've had the chief come out to my area because we've had some like Winnebagos, as you called them, that were, I think one was like abandoned, right? And then there was one that was obviously a very Walter White Winnebago situation. So it was unlike, semi-trucks in Bingham Junction that are unsightly, that second example was, dangerous. So a permitting process would at least, I don't even know if that's something we could fix that, but if people see campers of any size on a road for more than 24 hours, I usually get notified. Right? Yeah. Unless it's there, like the homeowners in front of their home, because then everyone sort of knows that it belongs to that person a lot of times. Which again, it's a public road. You can't really do that, but that is a problem,
And we can certainly look into the permitting process. I know originally when this was first brought, it wasn't the semi-trucks that initially started this conversation. It was the trailers, even the smaller RVs that were parked in front of people's homes that never seemed to move ever. And with a number of our roads being fairly narrow in residential neighborhoods, it was becoming problematic. Or even at the ends of cul-de-sacs, they were being parked so that people couldn't turn around or pass safely.
On your property though, so not on the private, or not on the public road, but on your property, can you or someone live in one of those in our city? Like, if I pull one into my driveway, could someone asked me this question, could they rent out that space or if their mom needed, space for a month, right? They didn't want to be in the house. Is that allowed?
No. So we do allow camping within single-family zones, and my memory is that it's limited to 14 total days the entire year. So I think the intent was essentially to allow people that if they wanted to set up a tent in their backyard with their kids and do a camp out, they could do so without violating any of our laws. Obviously, camping has expanded probably during the 50 years since that was originally done, but someone could not permanently live there or turn it into an Airbnb.
Okay.
I do like this. I'm interested to see where it goes, and I find Dustin's idea really interesting because I think with any of this, it's always we don't enforce enough, yet then we enforce too much, and so it'll be interesting to see where this lands, and maybe having a permitting process that we can say, if you're on a road this size, we're not going to allow you to do it because it's going to create other issues. But I would also say Chief, I would ask feedback from you as going forward, and then if adjustments need to be made to this ordinance to actually make sure that it's enforceable, if it's working, what kind of feedback we're getting would be helpful.
I know there's a lot of people who park on Bingham Junction Boulevard, semi-trailers, tractor trailers, and the chief and UPD have been very good at moving some of those folks along. So I don't think it takes much, it just takes contact from an officer and they kind of move along. But whether or not we have the capacity to, have an officer dedicated to doing that each day, that's definitely a worthwhile discussion. I would say too, it's not just aesthetics of it. I can watch from my balcony a lot of times, like things that are happening with these trucks, and you can tell that not everything's on the up and up. is what I'm saying. There are people who come, late at night knocking on the passenger side of the door, and who knows what they get involved in. That's between two adults, whatever. So I would say that's not entirely an aesthetic thing. You know, there are some issues of public safety that are involved as well. So, you know, I think it's a double-edged thing that we can help with our community, just moving them along as we see fit with our new ordinance.
Any other discussion?
And just for my benefit, for when I bring this back, would you like the permitting process to be part of the discussion the next time? Or are you comfortable moving forward with the ordinance as is, and we'll continue that discussion later?
Personally, I don't think a permitting thing, I mean, if you're not gonna allow one person, you shouldn't allow the other person. And it's like, if you start parking motorhomes in neighborhoods, it's just gonna grow. And we're gonna get people living in them and everything else. The more you get, the more problems you're gonna have. So I
Wouldn't
personally,
that control it?
what?
Well, the permitting process should control it, because right now people just move them around.
That's true, but what I'm saying, you have a permit, you park it there, then somebody doesn't know about this, they're just gonna come and park because they believe that you can park there. You see it, then sure, they're doing it, they don't know that you've got a permit. I just don't, it doesn't work.
I kind of feel the same way. I mean, people are gonna, if they see it, they're just gonna think, hey, anybody can park here. And then it's basically gonna turn into no enforcement, because we can't have UPD going and checking every one of those vehicles to see if they're permitted. So,
But that's what's already happening. That's what
I know, but that's
point
what I mean,
out.
is we're gonna
But it's
end
gonna-
up with an ordinance, and it's just gonna.
I think it'll get worse instead of better.
But
I
your
like-
theory is that they would see them, so they would park there, but they're already seeing them. Like, the permitting wouldn't change optics.
But if we tell them they gotta move and we don't have them parking there, then then it's not gonna keep growing on us. I like what we're talking about is, you know, to not have them there.
I think we should just stick with the ordinance that you presented tonight and then have a discussion about permitting at a different time.
Yeah, I'd be curious, like, can we even effectively enforce what we're putting in place now? And then if yes, because I do think Glover and Sperry's points are valid. And to me, it comes down to, well, we'd have to be enforcing those without. So I'd say this will be interesting to see, can we even enforce effectively on this? So.
Well, I mean, we have an ordinance that already exists and, you know, is being enforced. So it's just, right now, we're just changing time. So that changing the time shouldn't render it unenforceable when we're already enforcing it from 1 to 6. So I don't think that would be a problem.
Okay, with that, the fun's not over. We do have an RDA meeting and an MBA meeting. We also have a closed session that we need to do. So what I'm going to suggest is that we recess, we go into RDA, we then do NBA, and then we come back to council and do our closed session, so we don't have to make anybody wait for us in that.
Mayor, I move that we table our closed session for the time being and recess for 5 minutes and come back into an RDA meeting.
Okay, we do have a motion and a second to recess for 5 minutes, and then come back into the RDA meeting. Any discussion on that? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Yes.
Any opposed? Okay, that passes. We will begin again at 8:53. Thanks, Gary.
It's really hard for me to continually say it's gonna be food trucks. I keep saying, there's gonna be this plaza, there's gonna be this plaza. We've already, like, can we get some sort of timeline on that?
Yeah, I'll give you that. Nate's got the 90s drawings that Bill is working on trying to get that this summer.
They'll be able to plug in, right?
Yeah.
Like, that is unique, because everyone's going to work, you can plug in. Because here, the seating isn't as big a deal as people think. There's places to sit, but it's just not comfortable when there's just, you know, generator. So I keep saying like, it's gonna be cooler to do the plaza, plus I hate seeing that football field right there, grass like that. I hate it, unused grass is like, and I'm like, I mow my lawn twice a week, like I'm in that problem. I have a problem. Twice a week, edge it twice a week. I'm like, you know, on my hands and knees, and things like that. So I like, yeah. But when I see unused grass, I like hate it. So I want to keep saying like, no, like everyone calm down about the whatever, it's gonna be cool, but like, I can't just keep.
Second, should I come here, Nate?
No, we live right now, like 15 homes, like 15 homes. So,
Are you alive?
yeah. Yeah, I'll try to find him if you get his info. So.
Just curious if you want to.
No, I've never met him.
So the bid should be going.
I want to keep pushing that thing. I sort of get it as far as the concert, those eight Fridays or whatever. Right. I still think what we need to do as a city, so that's is the first concert and the last concert should be on.
No way.
Yeah, right. That way alleviates some of that worry, right? And I like the Main closing. I don't know if people live on Main, but it's so unique.
Sorry, what was the thing you were saying you wanted to do on Main?
Like two of the concerts you do here. Yeah. Like you close the road, right by the.
And they figured out how to do that before when Heath and I were talking about doing it. Yeah, we figured out, okay, we put the stage here and stuff like.
Yeah. Well, there was a concert there once on a stage. On the other end, and it could be on the other end, and that way people can eat on the other end and not be loud. And so like to me, the concert thing is like a non-issue, but it's hard for me to keep saying, trust me, it's gonna be cool when it's done.
Yeah, it's gonna be cool. I mean, we've spent more time how to make it shady. Because we realized it's like we could light it and do all these things which we're doing, but most of the time it's not dark.
Yeah.
It's in the summer, so we've done a bunch of cool things. The city's gonna be shady.
And they can plug in, right?
Everything is gonna be plugged. There's gonna be stations like full power. So
That's a huge thing.
everybody will plug in.
Most of it, sure.
It's gonna be cool. And I think people will use it and once they're.
Neighbors use it. They come and eat lunch, you know, if they're from home, like they swing it up, you know, not use it. You know,
But,
All right, it's 8:56. I'll call the redevelopment agency of Midvale City meeting to order. Welcome, everybody. Rory, we call roll.
Yes, Board Member Gettle.
Here.
Sperry.
Here.
Brown.
Yes.
And Glover.
Here.
Board Member Robinson is excused.
Thank you, Rory. All right, moving on to public comments. Any person wishing to comment on any item not otherwise scheduled for a public hearing on the agenda may address the redevelopment agency of Midvale City Board at this point by stepping to the microphone and giving their name for the record. Do we have any public comments? Seeing
Where was
none.
that kid?
All right, we'll move on to our public hearing of the night. Received public comments regarding the final fiscal year 2024 budget for the redevelopment agency of Midvale City beginning July 1, 2023 and ending June 30th, 2024. Cody? Okay, Cody.
Mariah's name is on the agenda to give it more legitimacy. So, thank you again for your time. We just have a few changes from the previous version of the budget that I presented like a month and a half ago. So let's see here. Yeah, it was the IT equipment interfund that went up $81. One needs something. So IT equipment just up a tiny bit. A more significant increase of $250,000 in transfers to Main Street from Bingham Junction. And that impacted the use of the fund balance. And I'll get into that in just a moment when we get to the Main Street fund. I think I mentioned that right before we had our meeting, I got updated numbers from Zions about what they anticipated their tax liability would be. So in this fiscal year, only about 40% of the value of their building and land and everything was on the tax rolls. In fiscal year 2024, all of it will be on the rolls, and so that will make a significant increase in the value of the Jordan Bluffs project area. And so that is now in our budget, so an increase in the property tax revenue, the contributions from other governments, which the difference of those is just the property tax revenue is what the city is participating. That's the city's portion. Contribution from other governments, that's all the other taxing entities, the school district, county, water districts, etc. That impacts the developer reimbursement because they're paying more taxes, they'll get more reimbursement. Tax entity payments, that impacts what we remit back to the taxing entities because the way it's set up is we receive 100% of the tax increment and then we remit 20% back to the taxing entities. It's just a way to provide more benefit to the taxing entities because more of the new growth will be online as a result of that once the project area sunsets. It impacts the transfers to administration, citywide housing, and more to the fund balance. And then Main Street, we added an additional $150,000 to the budget to design for a parking structure. So looking at the kind of the Main Street, we're seeing developments come online. We're seeing development happening right now. Construction's underway, and so we're wanting to get ahead of it and make sure that there's enough parking to support the demand that is imminently going to be here. And so $250,000 for the design of a parking structure. And that, I believe those are the only differences from the budget that was presented to the one that we're proposing for final adoption. So if there's any questions, I'm happy to field those.
I do have questions, but I would suggest we open public comment first.
Mayor, move that we open public comment.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to open public comment. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Yes.
Any opposed? Okay, public comment is open. Do we have any public comment? Seeing none.
Mayor, I move that we close public comments.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to close public comment. Any discussion on that? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Yes.
Any opposed? Okay, public comment is closed. I bugged Mariah for a while earlier today, but I didn't get that opportunity to do that with you, so I have a few questions.
Absolutely.
In the Bingham Junction fund,
Yes.
there's 170,000 for public art, and then I believe it's called.
I don't know why it's called prior year, but yes, public art.
And then same thing, Jordan Bluffs, 50,000. Do we have plans for what that would be?
Yes, so for Jordan Bluffs, we've already approached Zion's and about the possibility of having a mural on the side of their parking structure. That would be the side that faces the Bingham Junction Boulevard. Is it Bingham Junction Boulevard? No, what street is that? That's Center. No, I'm all mixed up.
It would be the side that faces when you're on Center coming in. So
Yes.
It faces down the slope towards the trail. It's
Yes.
the most visible piece as you come into Midvale.
You might be able to see it through the trenches and the weeds on the slope.
Exactly.
You can see it very clearly when you get up at the station at Gardner Village. It
Oh, it's on the west side.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So discussions have been very tentative based on the adoption of this budget and approval from the RDA board. But that is what we were anticipating for Jordan Bluffs. And for Bingham Junction, 170,000. We have a couple of art projects in mind. One of them would be improvements to the underpass on Holden 700 West. If you're walking from Overstock's parking lot to City Hall, that underpass is could use some improvements.
I
And
thought didn't we already approve like a sidewalk or whatever for that overpass on the east side of that?
Yes.
So more than that?
Art improvements.
Oh.
Sorry. Something that would be appealing at night and during the day, so
Gotcha.
possibly utilizing lights in addition to paints and statuary for the improvements in the plaza on City Hall. That's what we're anticipating.
Okay. Then we also have a recreation amenity program in citywide housing.
We do.
What is that?
So the recreation amenity program, that is it's been in our budget since I started working here and has kind of just been pushed forward and forward and forward. The idea of that is to provide recreational opportunities in lower income areas, in lower income neighborhoods. We haven't really found the right place and opportunity yet, but that's what that is for.
I have an idea, Nate. Should bring Kaye. We had talked about it. We'll talk later. Okay, I know.
Guess we're not involved in this, whatever, all right.
We're hoping to bring in Nick Ramondo's group, Kaye, and we had talked about a potential, and if there's money for lower income areas. So, that'd be great.
And that would have to be used within the RDA scope? No?
If it's affordable housing, then it can be used anywhere
Okay.
in the city.
That's great.
Yeah.
We should definitely take advantage of that.
Yes.
Those are my questions.
Great. Any other questions? Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Cody. All right, moving on to the consent agenda. Consider minutes of May 2nd, 2023. Do we have a motion to accept the consent agenda?
Mayor,
I couldn't hear you.
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
For Councilmember Glover.
Sorry, I couldn't hear what you were saying.
You really cut Paul out of this.
Yeah.
All right, we do
I'm
have
going
a
home.
motion and a second. Any discussion on that? Rory, will you call roll?
Yes, Councilmember Gettle,
Yes.
Glover,
Aye.
Sperry,
Aye.
and Brown.
Here.
That passes, thank you. All right, we've just got one action item tonight. Consider resolution number 2023-07 RDA approving the initial terms for an affordable housing incentive through the Main Street Upper Floor Housing Initiative for the Court Partners Development located at 7555 South Main Street. Maggie. Everybody should know that Maggie found, helped stop flooding today, this evening. So thank you, Maggie.
Do tell.
Ran right through it. Let's see. Hello, everybody. Sorry, that threw me off.
That's it? No explanation at all.
Oh, well, Glenn could explain.
There's a sprinkler issue on North 7.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I was just running to grab a key from one of the lifts through the murals, and I ran right through it. And that's how I discovered it. So, hello, everybody. I am pleased to be here tonight to present our first application for the Upper Floor Housing Initiative for Main Street. I'm going to tell you the resolution in the beginning so you kind of know what we're talking about. So as I take you through this presentation, tonight we're going to consider the resolution 2023-07 RDA, approving the initial terms for an affordable housing incentive through the Main Street Upper Floor Housing Initiative for the Court Partners Development located at 7555 South Main Street. So just to give you a little bit of the history of this project, in November of 2021, a request for proposals was closed to inviting developers to purchase and develop on the land. In December 2021, the court partners were selected through that RFP process. And in July of 2022, the RDA board approved the court as the selected developer to purchase and develop that land. And then this year, well, actually, that's supposed to be May 2023. May 2023, the court partners were pre-approved by the RDA for an affordable housing incentive through the Main Street Upper Floor Housing Initiative, which is what we're talking about today. So the Main Street Upper Floor Housing Initiative, the goals of the program are to utilize dedicated affordable housing funds from Bingham Junction and Jordan Bluff project areas without requiring repayment. The affordable housing funds, again, are dedicated just for affordable housing. To assist developers in overcoming multi-story development and parking-related costs on small lot sizes along Main Street or in the Main Street CDA. And to increase moderate-income housing opportunities on Main Street. We also want to bring in an influx of residents that will contribute to the vitality and economic revitalization of Main Street. And because these are mixed-use projects, that includes businesses as well. So we're encouraging mixed-use properties. One of the goals is to create a unique sense of place. And to meet the goals of the Midvale City Housing Plan and the Midvale Main Street Small Area Plan, and to decrease crime rates through passive surveillance. So the Main Street Upper Floor Housing Initiative was approved by the RDA in 2019, and we're just thrilled that we have an application. This is the first application for this program, and it's funded. The initiative is funded by the agency's dedicated affordable housing funds. As you know, last year, these funds supported the Sunset Gardens affordable housing development. This year, we've not used those funds, so this is a great opportunity to support affordable housing this fiscal year. The program provides up to 50% of the total rehabilitation and or development costs of the residential component of the project to be used for moderate income housing. So this includes new development on vacant lots. If there's upper levels that could be transformed into housing, this program would support that. It would also support the addition of additional levels so if it's a single story, this program would support adding stories for affordable housing. The units must be high quality affordable housing for households who fall on or below 80% of the AMI in Salt Lake County, and all projects must be mixed use and conform with the form-based code to qualify. So just a little overview about the application process. Developers can apply online. They have to complete an application form. It's first come, first serve. The funding, we approve the applications quarterly. And some of the required documents are an existing condition report, certified architectural drawings. We must verify that the contractors and subcontractors are licensed by the state. We ask for a statement of crime prevention through environmental design. We ask for energy efficient report through design features. We ensure that it conforms to the Main Street Form-Based Code. And we also ask for the inclusion of either public art or streetscape improvement. The court development has chosen both, which we're very pleased with. And then there's a required 3 items from the green building techniques list. So this is an overview of the initial terms that we will be hopefully discussing and approving today. It lays out the applicant's requested terms, and then I also have on the right the approved terms through negotiating with them over the last few months. So the initial request in the application was for $2,400,000 to cover 50% of the residential portion of the development, and a mix of 80% AMI and some 60% AMI. The total units are 16, 2 of them are studios and 14 are 1-bedrooms. As you can see, those were mixed 80% and 60% AMI, and then a request of 10 years for the term length, the deed restriction. So what the RDA is recommending that the court be approved for is a incentive amount of $1,917,1.9 million. This will cover 40% of the development costs, and would also ensure that all units are 60% AMI and below. The term length, we've requested 20 years, but we've included a buyback option at 15 years. So if they wanted to buy back the deed restriction, they would have to pay the RDA back a quarter of the incentive. So the market rate rent for 1-bedroom is estimated around $1,570. The rent for 1-bedroom in this development with this affordable housing incentive would be approximately $1,229. This would save residents about $341 a month. Same with the studios, they'd save about $246 a month. So just a quick overview of the court development, and the developers are here if you have more questions about this, but it's a mixed-use development, upper floor housing, 16 units total. The ground floor is commercial space, so there's infrastructure that's going to be included for restaurants, and additional features include flexibility to have have one or multiple tenants. There are rooftop amenities in the plan. The initial phase will not include the rooftop amenities at first, but the infrastructure is going to be included, like an elevator and stairs going to the roof, so this can be added at a later time. There's going to be infrastructure for up to 8 vehicles to have charging stations, secured parking, 1 per unit, and secured access to residential floors. And just some images to remind you all of the initial application, what this development will look like. And then some of those architectural drawings of the front and back. So what we are asking for approval today of is, in the purchase agreement for the development of land, the construction for this project must begin by August 1st, 2022.
2023, probably.
Oh my gosh, 2023.
Because he's already failed.
we're working on the mural festival, so I'm a little frazzled today. So yes, 2023. Documentation of pre-approval is needed for the court partners to secure financing for this project at this time. So once these initial terms are approved by the RDA board, we're going to release a pre-approval letter, which is in the packet. This letter is just pre-approval only for the not guarantee or commitment to lend, loan, or provide money for the project. And before I read this recommendation, I would like to give the court partners an opportunity to speak if they'd like.
Just please state your name for the record.
My name is Guillaume Belgique. I own the office 7583 South Main Street. It's the two-story brick office building where my architecture firm office is out of, and we have a tenant. I've been on this street for 16 years. It's come a long ways, and it's got just a little bit more to go to really be the cream of the crop as far as an area here in the valley where people want to live, spend money, shop, eat, all that good stuff. So we're excited about this development. My partner Jeff is here. He owns a lot of the other properties along Main Street. So we as a group are very vested. We're not a one and done type of developer. We're really interested in helping the growth of this city and of the Main Street area. We appreciate the opportunity to provide affordable housing. My firm, we do thousands of apartment units a year, probably 2/3 of those are affordable housing. We have a lot of clients that provide that, so it's a very important thing, and we understand that. And for years, I've been thinking that all this street needs is people living on the street, really to activate the community. So we're glad that a lot of it's happening now, and we appreciate the opportunity to be involved. We've worked really hard with Nate and Maggie and Cody to get to this point where we are. It's been a fun process. We're the first ones to go through it, so it's been a learning curve for everybody. And we hope that moving forward, that it's a nice streamlined process for everybody. So anyway, just want to say thank you and happy to answer any questions you might have.
No, I'm happy with it. I'm a little sad. I see people playing basketball, and it does feel like, this amenity. I don't know how often it does. I feel like every time I drive by, there's a family out there, so or something playing. So it'll be sad, but I like the look of what's going in there, and I can't complain about that. And I really like mixed use. I complain about that more than anything. So I'm glad that that's part of it, especially on that area. I do think people will. I think people probably all understand that this is probably a better use for it, and it's not, the worst thing ever. But just feels like, this used to be a baseball field where we're at, and that's gone, and the basketball court's gone, and can turn over. So.
Well, I have often stated and kind of got, not from developers or anything, but some assurance that there'd be a recreational field somewhere close by, maybe across the street here at City Hall in some of the areas that we have available. So hopefully that's still something that's to be considered. So I've often, mentioned that, that's the first thing I hear about this project is folks wondering where the basketball court's going to go. Although, unlike Councilmember Brown, I've literally never seen anyone playing basketball there. I've seen people there, but they're not playing basketball when I've.
The last council meeting, I saw like 10 because we left pretty early, and I was like, oh wow, this isn't just like one person shooting. This is like a group.
It used to be that we would have the conversations about that, the need of the amenity, and I used to get a little frazzled by it because people would have to point out to me when someone was using it because it was so rare, and then all of a sudden in the last couple of weeks or whatever, or a few months, or there's definitely been an uptick. I do think that between the project that Nate and company have been working on, that's going to be bringing not just a food truck plaza, but a lot of improvements to the campus that I think are you know, people are looking for nice shady places to sit, which is a lot of what's going on over there. I mean, we're providing a lot of those same amenities around this building. We've also added, I mean, there's the additional park space over at, it's a little ways, but at Station 125. And, you know, as things continue to progress, I think there will be some additional opportunities for us to find ways to provide open space or whatever for folks. But I think that my hope is that the folks who live around here who would utilize that will be very happy with the new improvements that we'll be making around on the City Hall campus too.
I can subscribe to that.
Any other questions, comments for either Maggie or G?
I think this program is great. You know, a lot of times, I mean, affordable housing is the number one issue, you know, that I hear about from a lot of people. And, you know, the question is often asked, like, what is Mid-Vale City doing for affordable housing? And then other than just saying, well, we try to promote it as much as we can. And like, this is something we can actually say, well, we allocated $1.9 million last year to assist with affordable housing. So I think this is the type of project that, you know, we've been hoping for quite some time. And hopefully those affordable rates stay affordable. That's the other issue that I've seen. You know, what's affordable is a very subjective term. So as long as they're, you know, we're putting those 60% AMI, that sort of thing, and monitoring that and making sure that those numbers are being adhered to, you know, I think that's going to be great for our future residents.
Yeah, we'll monitor it, make sure it happens, and
And the other thing you were talking about, foot traffic, you know, we don't want to make rent in these areas so expensive that, yeah, people move in, but then they don't have any money to go out onto Main Street and buy anything. So I think that solves two problems. Making it affordable makes it so that folks can go downstairs to the restaurant or across the street to the coffee shop.
Okay. Unless there's any other discussion, I would entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move that we suspend the rules and pass resolution number 2023-07 RDA, approving the initial terms for an affordable housing incentive through the Main Street Upper Floor Housing Initiative for the Court Partners development located at 7555 South Main Street, Midvale.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on that? Rory, will you call roll?
Yes, Board Member Brown.
Yes.
Gettle.
Yes.
Glover.
Aye.
And Sperry.
Aye.
That passes. Thank you. All right, so I would ask that we will adjourn this meeting and go into our Municipal Building Authority meeting.
Motion to adjourn?
Okay, we have a motion to
Second.
adjourn and a second. Any discussion?
No.
All in favor, please say aye.
Yes.
Aye. All right. All right, welcome everybody. It is 9:24. I will call this Mid-Vale City Municipal Building Authority meeting to order. Rory, will you call roll?
Yes, Board Member Glover.
Here.
Gettle.
Here.
Sperry.
Here.
And Brown.
Here.
Thank you. All right, public comments. Any person wishing to comment on any item not otherwise scheduled for a public hearing on the agenda may address the Municipal Building Authority Board at this point by stepping to the microphone and stating their name for the record. Do we have any public comments? Seeing none, we'll move on to our public hearing. Item A, consider fiscal year 2024 final budget for the Municipal Building Authority of Mid-Vale City beginning July 1st, 2023 and ending June 30th, 2024. All right.
I'm going to try really hard never to present to you 4 times in one meeting ever again. Too much of my face, I think. There has been no changes since you saw this when you adopted this as a tentative budget. The MBA exists to pay debt service on a few different things. We collect lease revenue from the Boys and Girls Club, the Street Lighting Fund, and Head Start, and then the city makes up the difference to make the bond payments, and that is the totality of this budget. Does anyone have any questions?
Cool story.
Yeah. And once we hold our public hearing for this, we can adopt this budget. So we'll be doing that after you do the public hearing.
All right. Well, I'd ask for a motion to open the public comment.
So moved.
Okay, we do have a motion. Do we have
Second.
We had a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Yes.
Yes.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Okay.
Mayor, I move that we close public comment.
Second? Yes.
For other reasons, I will wait 10 seconds.
There's
I don't see any
literally-
public comment.
No.
Go ahead.
Oh, I move yet again that we close public comment.
Second?
We have a motion and a second.
Again.
To close public comment, any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Yes.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, public comment's closed.
Mayor, I move that we adopt Resolution 2023-02 MBA adopting the final budget for the Midvale City Municipal Building Authority for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2024.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that? Rory, we call roll?
Yes, Board Member Gettle.
Yes.
Excuse me, Glover.
Aye.
Sperry.
Aye.
And Brown.
Yes.
Okay, that passes. Thank you, Mariah. Moving on to our consent agenda, just one item, consider minutes of May 2nd, 2023.
Mayor, I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Rory, we call roll.
Yes, Board Member Gettle.
Yes.
Glover.
Aye.
Sperry.
Aye.
And Brown.
Yes.
Okay, that passes. Thank you. I'd ask for a motion to adjourn. So
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
we have a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor, please say aye.
Yes.
Aye.
Mayor, I move that we move back into our city council meeting and proceed to closed session.
Okay, so it is 9:27. We're moving it back into council, but are going to go into closed session for, we need to state why, right? For discussion of the character, professional competence, or physical, am I wrong?
I think we're doing pending or imminent litigation as the reason.
For pending or imminent litigation. Okay, sorry.
Mayor, I move that we enter a closed session to discuss pending or reasonably imminent litigation.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion and a second to go into closed session. I always forget on this one. All in favor, please say aye.
Yes.
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? All right.